Welcome to A Moment of Zen. Time to sit back and relax as model, actress, mentor, and supermom Zen Sams takes you on a sexy and wild ride, covering the latest in film, fashion, pop culture, cryptocurrency, fintech, cannabis, and entertainment from the millennial mom's perspective. Here's your host, Zen Sams.
Hello, my beautiful tri-state area. Welcome to our 138th episode. It's always a pleasure to spend my time with you on the airwaves. Thank you for listening and interacting with me on social media. That truly does make it all worthwhile. Please make sure to follow me at Zen Sams. That's Zen with an X, not a Z. And also remember that we're live on Traverse TV Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern. Of course, all episodes of A Moment of Zen are streaming 24/7 on Kathy Ireland's Your Home TV. And of course, you can always find us on our YouTube channel. Today, in our Hydration with Heart segment brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut, we're featuring Ella Burbige, a junior at Southside High School in Rockville Centre, New York. Ella started her own nonprofit organization, the Heart and Soul Foundation, to compete in the Community Awareness Project Management section of DECA. This organization has been providing young athletes with free EKG cardiac screenings to detect heart abnormalities. Her aim is to prevent sudden cardiac arrest in youth across America. She joins me today to chat all about sudden cardiac arrest, AEDs, saving lives, and making a difference. In our Disability Awareness segment brought to you by Your Home TV and our friends over at Kathy Ireland Worldwide, today we're featuring Jay Stoyan, founder of the disabilitychannel.ca. Today, he joins me to chat disability awareness, demystifying stigmas, and what Familial Mediterranean Fever is. In our Going Deep segment by CO2lift.com, we're featuring guest Dr. David Rankin, founder of Aquaplastic Surgery in Jupiter and Miami, Florida, and the chief of plastic surgery at St. Mary's Medical Center in West Palm Beach. Dr. Rankin has been in practice for over 20 years. Recently, has become the well-known BII doctor. He trends extremely popularly in the breast implant illness community. Dr. Rankin stopped implanting women and solely focuses on explant procedures. He joins me today chatting breast implant illness, explanting, and reconstructive surgery. In America's favorite pharmacist segment brought to you by Mary Ruth's Organics, we're chatting with pharmaceutical expert and influencer Phil Cowley. Today we're chatting MTFHR gene mutations and how these mutations may be affecting your health. Stay tuned for our Hydration with Heart segment brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut, featuring high school junior Ella Burbige, founder of the Heart and Soul Foundation. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut, 100% pure coconut water. Imagine a drink that's nutrient-rich, powerfully refreshing, naturally sweet with no added sugars, not from concentrate, zero additives, low in calories, absolutely no artificial flavors, and is so tasty that it will become your new favorite beverage. Enter Once Upon a Coconut, the absolute best tasting coconut water you will ever try. Available in 4 refreshing flavors: pure, chocolate, pineapple, and sparkling with energy. Do your taste buds a favor and pick up some today at onceuponacoconut.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our Hydration with Heart segment brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut, we're featuring Ella Burbige, a junior at Southside High School in Rockville Centre, New York. Ella is part of the IB program and very much dedicated to her academic success. She's a varsity and travel basketball player, as well as Secretary of Student Government. If that's not enough, she's 11th grade president of the DECA Club. DECA is a national business club where students compete at state and national competitions with business role plays. It provides great networking opportunities. For DECA this year, Ella started her own nonprofit organization, the Heart and Soul Foundation, to compete in the Community Awareness Project Management section. This organization has been providing young athletes with free EKG cardiac screenings to detect heart abnormalities. The aim is to prevent sudden cardiac arrest in youth across America. And she has been spreading awareness and very active about sudden cardiac arrest in young athletes and the importance and growing need of AEDs. Now, an AED, or what they call an automated external defibrillator, is used to help those experiencing sudden cardiac arrest. It's a sophisticated yet easy to use medical device that can analyze the heart's rhythm and, if necessary, deliver an electrical shock or defibrillation to help the heart reestablish an effective rhythm. She raises money for the purchase of AEDs to donate to facilities and schools in need through the Heart and Soul Foundation's GoFundMe campaign. These screenings are crucial in saving lives and lowering sudden cardiac arrest statistics. The question is, can this be prevented? And the short answer is yes. To date, Ella has already saved lives and has made a positive impact. Welcoming now to the show is the incredible Ella Burbige. Welcome to the show, Stunner.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on. So we're chatting sudden cardiac arrest and AEDs, saving lives and making differences. So can you tell us about the inspiration behind starting the Heart and Soul Foundation and how it all began? I want to know what motivated you to focus on providing free EKG cardiac screenings to young athletes and raise awareness about sudden cardiac arrest in youth.
My inspiration and motivation behind starting my own organization around this issue was definitely being an athlete myself and having a personal connection with this issue. After personally knowing someone who suffered sudden cardiac arrest on the basketball court last year, I was motivated to ensure that other athletes like him can be saved by an AED. And these events have becoming increasingly more common in the news, and you're hearing a lot more about them. And I wanted to do something to be able to prevent these events. And it all began by doing research on sudden cardiac arrest, as well as researching the growing need of AEDs. There are 30 million AEDs needed in the US, and if I can make a difference by donating AEDs to local schools and facilities in need, this could help save lives in my community. And I started my awareness campaigns using an Instagram and a website, which helped me take off and start this process.
You are incredible, Ella. And for those of you that are not familiar, but sudden cardiac arrest can happen at any age. And it's really the leading cause of death in teenage athletes in the United States and accounts for approximately 10% of all deaths in youth. So this is very serious because the numbers are staggering. You're definitely onto something. Now, for years, many experts have recommended routine EKG exams to supplement standard pre-participation medical evaluations for all student athletes. The thinking is that if you can detect problems early, physicians can recommend that athletes take precautions or perhaps even withdraw from sports altogether to mitigate the risk of sudden cardiac arrest and death. So let's chat AEDs. We know that they protect and save lives from one of the leading causes of death, which is SCA. That's one of the leading causes of death here in America. And placing AEDs in schools is one of the strategies that policymakers have been pursuing in order to reduce deaths from SCA in youth. How do you fundraise for the purchase of AEDs, and what is the impact of donating these devices to facilities and schools in need?
The Heart and Soul Foundation has their own GoFundMe, where I've been collecting donations, which will go towards the purchase of AEDs for local facilities and schools in need. I'm raising money for these AEDs by stressing the importance of them and the desperate need for them on my Instagram and my website. And during my screening events, I'm recommending to the participants to make a donation, and I'm giving out donation cards as well as sending them home to the families along with the copy of their EKG. And many facilities have very little AEDs, and they can be hard to locate. And for one to be effective, they have to be used within a few minutes. And by getting AEDs to places in need, I'm helping save future lives and ensuring protection to not just young athletes, but to everybody around.
You are just, I mean, Ella, you are taking all the right steps to really make a difference here. And you're so young, and the fact that you have you have this roadmap is so impressive, because on any given day, we know that 20% of the US population can be found in school. And given this and the prevalence of sudden cardiac arrest among students, schools are logical hosts for life-saving defibrillators. It doesn't take a genius to crack that code. So despite recommendations that AEDs be placed in all schools from the scientific community and health organizations like the American Heart Association, the laws on AED requirements for schools vary widely from state to state. So thank you for being so proactive and covering the grounds that not even our own government has covered. Now, can you share some examples of how the Heart and Soul Foundation has made a positive impact on the lives of young athletes and their communities?
Yeah, so far I've held 2 free EKG screenings provided for young athletes. The first screening was held at my high school, and it was open to everyone from the high school and the middle school from my community. And my second screening event was held with my town's CYO organization at my local parish center, St. Agnes. And these screenings are positively impacting young athletes' lives because they're providing them with the opportunity to detect a heart abnormality. 1 in 300 youths are unaware of a heart abnormality, and by finding one with a simple EKG screening, it can prevent future sudden cardiac arrest. And during one of these screenings, one young athlete was detected with a serious heart abnormality, and without knowing of it, he was at risk for experiencing sudden cardiac arrest. He was sent for further workup and a treatment, which now has prevented him from being one of these statistics. I'm protecting the young athletes and their families of my community and making them feel safer during their activities and daily lives. I'm also spreading awareness about this issue and connecting with people who have survived sudden cardiac arrest and people with current heart conditions.
Incredible. You know, somebody told me once, a very wise person, that we were all meant to save a life, and God is always trying to save lives. And it seems like he usually uses the least likely people to do it. So you have been chosen. Now, can you explain the process of organizing and conducting an EKG cardiac screening? I mean, how do you choose the locations and participants?
Yeah, it's a very thorough process, especially the screening I set up at my high school. I had to go through a lot of administrators and authorities to get it approved. I got an LLC for my organization to ensure I had the right insurance for it. And I had to get the machines and the computer software for these screenings from a company in Boston that have done these screenings before. And I also had to hire nurses and PAs who are actually some of my friends' parents to help volunteer and conduct these screenings. And once the screenings were finished and the EKGs were printed out, I give them to a cardiologist who reviews them and checks them over. And the screenings need to be set up in a specific way to ensure the privacy of each patient. And I need to have consent and authorization forms from each participant with their parents, filled out by their parents or themselves. And I chose the locations of these screenings so far to be in my local community because I wanted to protect the athletes of my town and give back to the facilities where I play sports at myself and protect the people around me and who I play sports with every day.
You are running an entire, not only organization, but this feels like you're the CEO of a major corporation at this point, from the top down, just doing it all. And it clearly shows that you have a clear roadmap and a very, very strong business sense of where this should go. So congratulations to you for that. Now, what kind of partnerships or collaborations have you established with organizations and schools, or maybe even healthcare professionals, to achieve your mission?
I first had to form the connection with the Boston ECG project to ensure that I had the correct machines and software to be able to conduct these screenings. I then had to partner with Dr. Gabriels, who is a cardiologist at Northwell Health and Cohen's Children's Medical Center, to have him review the screenings after they were conducted by the PAs and nurses that volunteered. I collaborated with Southside High School in St. Agnes to hold these screenings, and I'm also in the process of partnering with Zoll, which is an AED company, to be able to purchase the AEDs with the donations I have received so far.
You're on it. What aren't you doing, Ella? We are almost out of time. We have about 1 minute left. How can individuals or organizations support and get involved with the Heart and Soul Foundation's mission?
By following the Instagram page and keeping up with the website, you can learn more about sudden cardiac arrest and ways you can make a difference. By getting an EKG screening, you can be protecting yourself from sudden cardiac arrest and help lower the statistics of them occurring. And donating to the Heart and Soul Foundation's GoFundMe is a very beneficial way to get involved, because you can help put an AED where one is necessary, which can ultimately save a life.
Well, I could proudly say that you've listed all of the check marks on the DECA requirement to win this. Because you are not just really, really educated about your cause and your mission, but you're passionate, and your passion is driving you. And I could see that. Thank you so much for coming on. You are such an inspiration.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. That was our Hydration with Heart segment, brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut. That was the incredible Ella Burbige, a high school junior and founder of the Heart and Soul Foundation. You could head directly to her website at theheartandsoulfoundation.com. Check her out on the gram at the Heart and Soul Foundation. And you can also go directly to her GoFundMe page at gofundme.me, and you can search Heart and Soul Foundation. It will pop right up. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Your Home TV.
Hi, this is Kathy Ireland here on A Moment of Zen, brought to you by Your Home TV. We've developed an all-inclusive subscription-free network that you're going to love, whether it's financial freedom, fashion, beauty, health and wellness, wonderful weddings, travel and culture, cooking, entertainment, and short-form documentaries, programming for everyone. Classic films and new shows, including Kathy Ireland Presents American Dreams. We've developed this network just for you. Please check out yourhometv.com.
Tune in to A Moment of Zen, Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Coming up next in our disability awareness segment, brought to you by Your Home TV and our friends over at Kathy Ireland Worldwide. Today, we're featuring Jay Stoyan, founder of the Disability Channel. Now, Jay grew up in Toronto and was diagnosed with Familial Mediterranean Fever, an incurable illness which he continues to deal with to this day. He became a published author, documenting his experiences in his novel Flanagan's, A Tale of the Streets. From managing a popular nightclub in Toronto's entertainment district to being a dedicated dad and diehard sports fan, loyal to Toronto's teams throughout the struggles, of course. Jay launched the disabilitychannel.ca in 2014 by and for persons with disabilities, specifically highlighting veterans. Today, he joins me to chat disability awareness, career, and demystifying stigmas. Joining us now to the show is the amazing Jay Stoyan. Welcome, superstar.
Thank you so much. I'm blushing by that introduction. I really appreciate the kindness. Thank you so much.
You, without a doubt, you deserve it. You deserve it, my friend. So let's chat familial Mediterranean fever, what they call FMF. It's an autoinflammatory rare genetic disorder characterized by recurrent short-lived episodes of fever and inflammation. To my understanding, it causes recurrent fevers and painful inflammation of the abdomen, chest, and joints. And it's an inherited disorder that usually occurs in people of Mediterranean origin, including, to my understanding, those of Jewish, Arab, Armenian, Turkish, North African, Greek, or Italian ancestry. But I did read that it can affect people in any ethnic group. Jay, can you share with us when you were first diagnosed with familial Mediterranean fever?
Wow, that's a great introduction. You really did your homework. So I really appreciate that, Zen. Wow, that's great. Yeah, so I received, I conducted it from my parents at about 6 months old. So it's a gene thing. Both my parents are Macedonian, Mediterranean, of course. And I received when I was 6 months old. And from the time I was 6 months old to about the time I was 12, I spent half my life in and out of hospitals, including Hospital for Sick Children here in Toronto, which is renowned as one of the world's best hospitals for kids, the Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic, and they were experimenting on me. They knew what I had, but they didn't solve it, as I was the first kid, according to reports through Hospital for Sick Kids, diagnosed with the illness. Everybody else were adults. So at about 12 years old, they kind of turned to my mom and said, you can keep him here, you can take him home. He's going to get it and then get better, get better. So really what it is, it's a fever on steroids. So we all know what COVID is now, right? We all know what COVID is. My symptoms are exactly the same as COVID, plus about 50, right? You add about 50 ailments that come along with my fever, from sore to swollen gums, to respiratory problems, to rashes, to bumps on my legs. Thankfully, as an adult, I've learned to combat it. I think I'm the only person in the world, because I've done some research and I've talked to a lot of people, that I'm the only person with my illness, according from what I understand, that can be functional. Everybody else is, they can't hold a job, they can't get out of bed. But because I'm a martial art guy, I've learned how to stretch out my illness, because it's all about a knot that appears in your body. The knot for me it triggers my illness. If I can get the knot out, hopefully the illness will stay away. So I sleep on the floor. It's funny, I'm sure we all know the movie The Exorcist, right? So I filmed myself on the floor, on a flat floor, watching my body go like this. It's realigning itself. And if it realigns itself quick enough, my illness stays at bay. So I've learned how to keep it at bay, but I still get it. I was just down the other day and it knocks me out like it's COVID.
Now I know that there's no cure for this disorder, and signs and symptoms of FMF usually begin, like you said, during childhood and occur in these bouts you're talking about, with what they call attacks that last 1 to 3 days. And of course, this cripples the individual from being able to get out of bed and work and have a productive life, let alone the arthritic attacks. Those may last for weeks or months. So I know that it's not an easy thing to be able to, deal with on a day-to-day if you do suffer from it. Now, you specifically, what are some of these symptoms you had, and what are your current challenges?
Well, back in the day, I used to get convulsions. So I had to be rushed to the hospital. That's when I was really young. And then my fevers used to reach anywhere from 103 to 105. They used to have to put me in tubs full of ice water just to cool me down. It went to the point where my parents didn't know what to do. And I actually went to one of our high priests who tried to get it out of me. Like my parents were desperate because they seen how much it was affecting my life. Right. So nowadays, really what it is staying away from physical activity, staying away from stress, and staying away from, obviously, I can catch a cold maybe a little easier than anybody else. But other than that, I'm pretty good. Like people say, Jay, if you didn't have your illness, you never get sick. Like I never, touch wood, I never get sick unless I have a bout with my illness.
Now, interestingly enough, the fever, the abdominal pain, the chest pain, which can make it hard to breathe deeply, the painful and the swollen joints, usually in the knees, ankles, and hips, the red rashes on your legs, especially with people who have this condition below the knees and the muscle aches. But there's one particular troublesome, if you will, thing that came up, and it was amyloidosis. So during attacks of FMF, your body may produce a protein called amyloid A, not typically found in the body. And that's a buildup of a protein that causes inflammation, which can cause organ damage. And kidney damage is, in fact, the most after effect. So amyloidosis can damage the kidneys, causing nephrotic syndrome. And nephrotic syndrome occurs when your kidneys' filter systems are damaged. And people with nephrotic syndrome may lose large amounts of protein in their urine and can lead to blood clots in the kidneys and/or failure. And that's all because of this disease. Now, how has living with this illness shaped your perspective on life and your career choices?
To be honest with you, because I grew up in a real rough part of town, I did not share my illness. So the only people that knew about my illness was my family and my close friends. And we can get into that a little bit later, but I thought it would be best to keep my personal issues to myself. So I never really brought it out into the public, if you want to call it that, since I created the channel, right? When I created the channel, I kind of was looking for a particular niche, because before I created the channel, I was a Fox host on Fox Entertainment Station, right? They didn't know about my illness. So I was on Fox for about 1.5 years. It was great. They were great to me, great interviews, but I needed more in life. So from about 2012 to 2014 or whatever, I was on Fox. And then 2014, I said, I love doing this, but to interview people about their new films and their new this, I mean, that's wonderful, but I need more. I need more substance. So I said, I'm going to branch out, leave Fox, and start the disability channel. So that's really in 2014 when I really let people know that I have an illness.
Right. And so the disability channel, you talk to a lot of different people across Canada, even across the world. You talk to some very important people, people that are demystifying stigmas within their communities and disabilities. Talk to me about that, demystifying stigmas surrounding disabilities. And of course, this inspired your novel Flanagan, to document your experience in this way. Can you talk to us a little bit about both?
Sure. That's a real good question. I feel very lucky in the body I am because I have all my limbs. So when I see people, they look at me like, well, he's not disabled, right? He's just a regular Joe. He's, 6-foot guy, 180 pounds, whatever. He's a regular guy, but I have an internal illness. So I'm lucky because I can represent my community to the outside world as an able-bodied person. So because I deal with my whole crew, my whole team, my whole staff are disabled. I see what they go through every day. I'm so blessed because we have people on our team that are quadriplegics. We have people that are in wheelchairs. It's very sad, but it's very inspiring. So I feel like I'm the front of the train, and to everybody else, I look like an able-bodied person. So therefore, when I bring out the disability subject, they go, "Oh, like, tell me more about that, Jay. Like, you don't look disabled," and I go, well, I have an internal illness. So it's actually good in a serendipity way. You know what I mean? Like I get in through the back door, but then I tell people exactly what I do. And everybody goes, oh my goodness, like, that's great. Like, so it's been really good.
It's remarkable how you were able to paste the two together. And I say paste because that's what you did. Now, the story behind your novel Flanagan's, what inspired you to document your experiences in this way?
Well, like I said, growing up I grew up in a place called Scarborough, Ontario, which was a blue collar, very, very rough neighborhood, but very loving. I had great family, great friends, and just everybody in our neighborhood was just a little bit of a rascal, right? Everybody was a little bit of rascal. I have 2 older brothers. They were big rascals in our neighborhood. And my last name was pretty prominent in the area we grew up with, and being a younger boy of 3 boys, and everybody liked to have fun and go and do stuff, that I got challenged a lot because of my older brothers in my family. And then so I just sort of fell into that world for a bit, not for any other reason, because my parents they are terrific. I had every opportunity that every other kid had in my neighborhood, which wasn't much. We had a bicycle and we had a hockey stick, and you go out and play all day. So it was just part of the makeup of how I grew up, but it wasn't anything that I dreamed to do. I got to do this. It just happened that way. It's almost like organic.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now, how do you balance your responsibilities as a published author, a show host, and a dedicated dad?
Well, I've been told that I've been blessed with a lot of energy, and I do have a lot of energy. The only time I don't have energy is when my illness hits me, and then I'm done. I'm in bed. Other than that, I can go, and I'm a juggler. So I have right now, like you, I'm sure, right? There's my list, and on my list, I have 50 items on my list. If I had 1 or 2, I would go out of my mind. So every day, my normal routine is I'm up by 6. I'm at my desk by 6:30 doing work, and it's my zen. From 6 until 9:30, I do all my emails. I do the social media for the company. I do everything like that. I make sure the staff, I'm a big cheerleader, so I make sure all my staff are taken care of. They're all ready for the day's work. I love being structured. I love being early. I'm an early guy. So if I have to go to an event, sometimes I get there before the janitor.
Well, that's your dedication.
They go to the janitor? Yeah.
Your dedication and your discipline clearly are shining through. Well, we are almost out of time. We have one question left, and I'd love to know about the roadmap for the Disability Channel. Can you talk to me about the channel
Thank you.
roadmap?
Yeah, so the Disability Channel is by and for persons with disabilities and veterans, showcasing abilities in media through our Ontario government-funded employment programs in media. So basically what we do is we try and help the disabled community by getting them off assistance, getting them a job, part-time or full-time. For veterans, we help them transition from the battlefield to the workforce through our programs and get them jobs. So we're all about creating employment, and we have lots of opportunities as we've been to the Super Bowl 6 years in a row. February 225, we're looking to participate in media and production at the Invictus Games for the veterans out in British Columbia. So, and we're TV and radio. So we get to showcase all the benefits and all the success stories with our community and the most vulnerable and our heroes. So it's all about creating opportunities, creating employment in media for persons with disabilities, veterans, and able-bodied people too. We don't discriminate against anybody. So if you want to find out more about our channel, you can go to www.thedisabilitychannel.ca.
You're the best. Jay, thank you so much for coming on. We are officially out of time, my friend, but I just want to thank you for chatting with me and really gracing us with your presence today and truly being so inspirational. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunities, and thank you so much, and hopefully we'll talk again.
That was our disability awareness segment brought to you by Your Home TV and our friends over at Kathy Ireland Worldwide. That was the awesome Jay Stoyan. You can head directly to the disabilitychannel.ca, or you can check him out on the gram at the Disability Channel. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Your Home TV.
Hi, this is Kathy Ireland here on A Moment of Zen, brought to you by Your Home TV. We've developed an all-inclusive subscription-free network that you're going to love, whether it's financial freedom, fashion, beauty, health and wellness, wonderful weddings, travel and culture, cooking, entertainment, and short-form documentaries, programming for everyone. Classic films and new shows, including Kathy Ireland Presents American Dreams. We've developed this network just for you. Please check out yourhometv.com.
Tune in to A Moment of Zen, Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by CO2 Lift. As we age, our skin loses moisture and elasticity, causing wrinkled skin. You can reverse this aging process with CO2 Lift. CO2 Lift utilizes the powerful benefits of carbon dioxide to lift, tighten, and regenerate your skin. This simple, painless at-home carboxytherapy treatment is scientifically proven to reverse the aging process. You will see reduction in wrinkles, increase luminosity, and improve pigmentation, sagging, skin tone, and radiance. For more information or to order CO2 Lift, go to CO2Lift.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our Going Deep segment brought to you by CO2 Lift, we're featuring Dr. David Rankin. He's founder of Aquaplastic Surgery in Jupiter and Miami, Florida, and the chief of plastic surgery at St. Mary's Medical Center, West Palm Beach. Dr. Rankin has been in practice for over 20 years. Recently, he has become well known in the breast implant illness community. That's BII. Dr. Rankin stopped implanting women and solely focuses on explant procedures. Now, a study published in the Aesthetic Journal in December of 2021 and several other studies have shown that people who reported they had BII often had a significant improvement in their BII symptoms after explanting. Now, as 20-somethings flock to plastic surgeons for chin lipo, lip flips, and breast augmentations, the Food and Drug Administration has a grim warning. The agency issued a safety update regarding breast implants, reporting that the FDA is aware of over 20 cases of potentially deadly squamous cell carcinoma, a type of skin cancer, and various lymphomas in the capsule around the breast implant and in scar tissue. The agency also noted that the cancers are different than the previously reported risk of breast implant-associated anaplastic large cell lymphoma, also called BIA-ALCL. Now, the FDA first released the safety warning in September after more than a dozen medical device reports linked the cancers to the implants. Now, regardless of whether they're saline or silicone, Implants can cause joint and muscle pain or weakness, mental health problems, brain fog, fatigue, memory loss, chronic pain, hair loss, rashes, and so much more. The list goes on and on. While some patients' symptoms resolve after removing the implants, others don't find that same relief. Here to chat breast implant illness, explant, and reconstructive surgery is the amazing Dr. Rankin. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Thank you, Zen. Great seeing you again, and thanks for having me on once again.
Absolutely. Let's dive right in. So can you share your background and experience in explant breast surgery and addressing breast implant illness? I'm really curious to know, how did you become passionate about this area of plastic surgery?
Well, I've been doing plastic and reconstructive surgery for, like you said, about 20 years now. And I started off doing a multitude of plastic surgical procedures. In the last, I'd say 5 years, I've become very focused on explant surgery, just because I've been seeing so many patients having problems, and through helping them out and watching them recover and feel better, it's become a passion of mine just to help patients and help women and to guide them through the whole process.
And you're doing a great job at that. I've seen some heartfelt testimonials that trend on social media about women reclaiming their freedom and their lives after they explant with you. So thank you for doing God's work in many respects. What is the most common sign and symptoms of breast implant illness, and how do you evaluate patients to determine if they might be experiencing it?
Well, oftentimes it's a diagnosis of exclusion. Women have been having health issues for some time. They've been to multiple specialists. They get no answers. They've kind of checked all the other boxes. And it is, in some way, shape, or form, a leap of faith, because there's no diagnostic for it. It's really a multitude of symptoms, some more common than others. Some that you mentioned on the introduction to the show: skin issues, joint pain, brain fog, anxiety. There is a list from the FDA, which you mentioned also. You can go online and look at that, fda.com, under breast implant illness. But we know that there's a multitude of other symptoms that patients are experiencing.
Right. And we know that these symptoms seem to subdue within half a year of the explant. So that leap of faith is pretty spot on, Dr. Rankin.
Yeah.
Now, last year, plastic and cosmetic surgery organizations, the Aesthetics Society, reported that breast augmentations, lifts, and reductions were up by 48% in 2021, estimating that 365,000 augmentations were performed that year. But with beauty, sometimes, of course, we know comes pain, or in this case, breast implant illness. And regarded now as a newly investigated phenomenon, Cleveland Clinic is describing BII as a range of symptoms that occur after getting implants. So they keep updating the references. Could you describe the different types of breast implant removal procedures, the potential outcomes and complications associated with them, if any?
Well, basically what an explant is, it's removal of the implant, and that's the easy part. But I feel that the capsule surrounding the implant, which is the body's way of walling off a foreign body, should be removed also. There's some controversy on this because the American Board of Plastic Surgery did a study which states only a partial capsulectomy is effective. But in my practice, I'm committed to removing it all, because it's still, these are early studies, and we really, we don't want to be left with capsule or scar tissue in 4 or 5 years when we discover that this may be one of the leading causes of having symptoms. So I think it's important to remove in every patient. And the patients that simply do an explant with no capsule removal, I'm not seeing abatement of symptoms afterward.
So this en bloc surgery is what we're talking about. Is that correct?
Well, en bloc, there's a difference between en bloc and total capsulectomy. En bloc means that the whole capsule, right, whole scar tissue comes off in one unit with the implant, with no holes or imperfections in it. A total capsulectomy means that the whole capsule comes out. So an en bloc is a type of total capsulectomy.
Right. So when we talk about en bloc surgery, the specialized surgical technique often chosen by individuals who wish to have their breast implants removed to ensure the complete removal of the surrounding scar tissue capsule that forms naturally around the implants. Can you discuss your experience with implant removal and explantation techniques, including en bloc removal?
Yeah, well, en bloc is really a term that we're trying to move away from. It's more of a term that's used with cancer patients, with patients that do develop some things you talked about, like the ALCL, where you want to get everything in one unit. It becomes more important when an implant is ruptured, when a silicone implant is ruptured, to try and avoid spillage. But really, statistically, the patients do just as well whether they have a total capsulectomy or an end block in your standard explant surgery. And doing an end block in every single patient can actually be dangerous. It's just important to get the whole capsule out.
Interesting. Now, medical professionals advise implants to be refreshed every 10 years to avoid complications, but some patients reportedly haven't needed to wait for nearly that long before symptoms set in, right? So women have previously claimed it felt as if they'd been poisoned, quote unquote, due to their implants, while others reported severe weight gain and adult acne even. How do you tailor your approach to explant surgery to meet the individual needs and concerns of each patient?
Well, implants, there's not a standard of when they need to be replaced. So silicone implants, if you ask 5 plastic surgeons, you may get 5 different answers on when they should be replaced. Back when I used to do implants, which I don't do anymore, I thought every 8 years was a safe number to change your silicone implants. Saline implants are different. They can be left in longer if patients are not experiencing any symptoms. As far as when do you do an explant, it's really up to the patient and the doctor through a thorough discussion and see how they're feeling. See if they're having any symptoms. Someone has saline implants and they're 10 years out, they feel great, they look good, and they ask me what to do. Well, those are the patients where you don't have to necessarily remove them at that time. But if they're experiencing symptoms, or if they have a leak or a rupture or a capsular contracture, those are the indications for surgery.
And how do you, when you're talking about these procedures, how do you collaborate with patients to achieve natural and aesthetically pleasing results after explantation? Is it consulting with them prior? Is it a roadmap?
Yeah, every patient's different, and outcomes depend on a lot of different factors. So amount of breast tissue is a big one. The more breast tissue a patient has going in, the easier it is to get a more pleasing aesthetic. Size of the implant also, patients with very large implants, it stretches out the skin and the tissues more, so there's more reconstructive work that becomes necessary. Through experience, I can kind of get an idea of patient outcomes postoperatively, and can discuss what we expect to achieve with everybody.
And what measures do you take to minimize scarring and improve the overall appearance of the chest area post-explantation?
It depends, because some patients, you can just do an explant through a very small incision in the breast crease and they turn out just fine. But patients with stretched out tissues or breasts that have dropped over time, where you want to do a lift, you always want to get the best possible shape with the least possible scar. And those two are kind of competing sometimes. So these are discussions to have beforehand also.
So I'm due to explant with you in a few weeks, announcing it to the world, and I can't wait to try CO2 Lift Carboxy Gel post-surgery, because after some peer reviews, they found that CO2 Lift increased the presence of wound repair factors and growth factors, which help cells turn over faster, reducing the appearance of scars. And carboxy therapy also stimulates collagen and elastin production, which helps retain hydration and improves, of course, elimination of waste, which in turn helps the body heal localized damage such as scars. So I can't wait to be the guinea pig for that one.
Yeah, we'll give it a shot, and I've heard really good things about it. So you'll be the first in my practice. So we'll check it out.
I'm all about setting precedents, going where there is no path and leaving a great big trail. Now, are there any advocacy efforts or initiatives you're involved in to raise awareness about breast implant illness and promote patient safety, of course, outside of our platform?
I really just try and be an advocate on social media and put forth the experiences that my patients have. They do a lot of awesome videos, testimonials, tutorials for post-op care. And I just kind of repost these things, and it's become very powerful just online.
You don't need any help. You have models, actors, celebrities, athletes, VIPs all lined up with amazing and incredible testimonials, to your point, and your social media does blow up often, and you are tagged all over the place with breast implant illness advocacy groups internationally. And I think it's because you have paved the way for yourself in a niche market, and many women come to you to find that their health again. So you are doing incredible things, and the oath that you took to solely explant really speaks volumes and says a lot about who you are as a doctor, but also as a human being.
Yeah, well, thank you. I think when women feel better after surgery and it changes their life, they want to share and they want to help other people. And that's really how this thing has really taken off, is women helping other women and spreading the word, spreading awareness.
Yeah, and it's all about education, 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 education. This is so important, and it's such a trending topic, breast implant illness. The FDA lied. They have been lying for a long time. And now that black box warning is being adjusted since 2021 to include more harsh realities that they all knew. It's just now it's coming to the surface because there's that many reports. And just like everything else in big pharma, you know, you got to do your research. You don't know who to trust. And I certainly wouldn't trust those big guys. So thank you for being who you are, Dr. Rankin, and helping so many women.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for saying that.
Absolutely. A vast majority of patients tolerate breast implants just fine. But patients who have ruled out all other possibilities of cause of their symptoms with their primary care physician and specialists, or those who simply wish not to have their implants any longer, can definitely seek out an explant. You definitely need to check out Dr. David Rankin. That was our Going Deep segment, brought to you by CO2lift.com. David Rankin is founder of Aquaplastic Surgery in Jupiter, Florida, and the chief of plastic surgery at St. Mary's Medical Center in Palm Beach. You can find him directly on his website at davidrankinmd.com, or check him out on the gram at David Rankin MD. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by CO2 Lift. As we age, our skin loses moisture and elasticity, causing wrinkled skin. You can reverse this aging process with CO2 Lift. CO2 Lift utilizes the powerful benefits of carbon dioxide to lift, tighten, and regenerate your skin. This simple, painless at-home carboxytherapy treatment is scientifically proven to reverse the aging process. You will see reduction in wrinkles, increase in luminosity, and improve pigmentation, sagging, skin tone, and radiance. For more information or to order CO2 Lift, go to CO2lift.com.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Mary Ruth's Organics. Not all supplements are alike. Mary Ruth's believes that making the best supplements means creating products that are only made out of the highest quality ingredients. They are non-GMO, plant-based, vegan, and they taste great. Mary Ruth's Organics assist in maintaining your health and aid your body on your way to wellness. For more information, go to MaryRuthOrganics.com and use the promo code PHIL20MRO for 30% discount off your first order. That's MaryRuthOrganics.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next, in America's favorite pharmacist segment, brought to you by Mary Ruth's Organics, we're chatting with the amazing Phil Cowley. Today, we're chatting all about the MTHFR and gene mutations. Now, as you know, Phil is our pharmaceutical expert and regular contributor, and he's going to break it all down for us today. Now, the MTHFR gene provides instructions for your body to make the MTHFR protein, which helps your body process folate. Now, your body needs folate to make DNA and modify proteins. Today, we're going to cover the role of the MTHFR gene and why it's important to our health. How do MTHFR mutations affect the body's ability to process folate? And what are some common health issues associated with the MTHFR mutations? Welcoming now to the show is my amazing contributor and co-host, Phil Cowley. Welcome, superstar.
Hey, Zen, how are you?
I'm amazing. Let's get right to it now. So this is a trending topic. How are MTHFR mutations identified, and what does testing involve, Phil?
Well, the thing about it is you have a patient come in and they said, well, my fingers and hands are tingling and they've got ringing in my ears. And then you start talking to them, have you had any problems having babies? Have you had any blood clots? And then you look at it and they're taking 6 or 7 medications. And in the last few years, people are saying, well, maybe there's not 7 problems. Maybe there's just 1 problem. And now that they've got really simple tests for genetic tests, there's GenMax, there's all sorts of ones that are online now for about $200. They're coming up and seeing that many of the people who have multi-problems, they're having a ton of reflux, their hair's falling out, they have all sorts of, like I said, tingling in the fingers, they're seeing low levels of depression and anxiety. They test them and they're finding a correlation between that and people that are carrying this genetic change that doesn't always show up. It only shows up at certain points. And so they think, well, maybe we don't need to treat 7 things with 7 pills. Maybe we can get to 1. And that becomes a point where people are starting to use it, and they're seeing such good results of decreasing all the symptoms that it's becoming a huge topic. Whereas it used to be, well, this isn't such a big deal.
Okay, great. So that's a very thorough, explanation in terms of identifying and testing and whatnot. But let's chat recommendation of L-methylfolate. So L-methylfolate is often recommended because it is the bioactive form of folate, which is a B vitamin, and it's essential for DNA synthesis, repair, and methylation, which is a process important for cognitive function, cardiovascular health, and just so much more. So the recommendation is especially pertinent considering that up to 70% of people have variations in their MTHFR gene that can affect folate metabolism. So that said, up to 70% of people can't methylate, Phil. There have been mixed studies on the importance of the methylated folate. What dietary and lifestyle changes are recommended for people with the mutations, and which supplement do you recommend?
So the dietary supplements are the easiest, because if you look to where the population that have the highest rate of this genetic abnormality, they all come from areas that eat a lot of seafood, a lot of leafy greens, and then we come here and we eat a lot of McDonald's and a lot of processed foods. And then so they didn't see it back when we ate all of the greens and all of the seafood. So you add seafood, lots of leafy greens. Brussels sprouts are really, really high in it, but I don't know who eats Brussels sprouts anymore. So, and then you have, so you had all these things, and now we miss it. So if you've got a background that comes from European, so the European Union thinks that about 50% of individuals in the European Union need to have the L-methylfolate. They need to make sure they have the methylated folic acid, because they're seeing that little bit of missing folic acid. You take folic acid and turn folic acid into folate. It takes 2 steps chemically. We have to break a double bond. We have to add a part to it. That takes 2 steps. Then you have to be able to methylate it, which 50% of people from European background can't do that. Hispanics are maybe even higher than that. So you look at those individuals, and we know we can't do it. We've created this huge flux. In fact, they say that if you look in adults in America, because the way that how much folic acid we have, we can't translate. 70% of people in the United States have active folic acid, which, by the way, is a completely man-made chemical. It doesn't exist in nature at all. And they find it in their blood system, and they still don't have enough of the methylfolate. So Mary Ruth, you take anybody made inside the United States or inside of a European Union country, and you add the methylated folate to it, and you automatically see all of these health effects get better by 10-15%.
Fascinating. And I love how you just broke that down. So you said something extremely important. I'm not going to let it go. 70% of adults in the US have folic acid at high concentrations found in their blood.
Right.
And we know this for a fact. What ramifications will this have?
So they're trying to figure out what the ramification is, because they found studies where they see higher correlations of what they call unmetabolized folic acid syndrome, which is a brand new thing. So 1996 is when the FDA started putting folic acid in everything. And it was fantastic, because we saw all of the birth defects drop by like 30% overnight by adding folic acid to all of our grains. But since 1996, we're starting to see high levels of unprocessed folic acid inside of almost every adult they look at, which is weird because, like I said, folic acid does not exist in nature. And anytime we add something that didn't exist in nature and it's only been 30 years, the ramifications are still being looked at. In most cases, the CDC, most of them saying, we don't think there's a problem. But I've heard we don't think from officials so many times that my thought process is if you know that you have a problem, because you have a 50-50 chance because you've got European background, or a 50-50 chance because you're Hispanic, why we're adding more folic acid inside of our multivitamins and any other dietary makes me wonder, is there going to be a problem? We're like, oh, look at that. There's this huge problem we weren't looking at. And that to me is a big deal, because if folic acid doesn't exist in nature and we're using it, and we needed to, it doesn't stay real stable to where you can throw it in grains when we put it as folate. I think that there'll be bigger ramifications. And right now we're seeing a little higher rates of gastric reflux. It's really hard on the liver. So if you have somebody who's already a heavy drinker and then we add more and they're not processing it, we have bigger issues with the liver. And then you're seeing cancer rates, and cancer rates are really hard because when you take cancer, some cancers go up and some go down. So they're like, well, it doesn't really distinguish. But if we look at individual problems, we're seeing an increase.
Yeah. And what's interesting is in 1996, the FDA required adding folic acid to grains. And we know that this, like you said, had effects on birth defects and the function of L-methylfolate, right? It plays a critical role in producing neurotransmitters, synthesizing DNA, and assisting with cellular repair and methylation processes. So this is particularly important for individuals with MTFHR gene mutations who have a reduced ability to convert folic acid to its active form. And when you look, I know specifically for me, I discovered that I had a mutation during my pregnancy, but the MTFHR mutations, particularly the C677T variant, has been associated with an increased risk of neural tube defects in the fetus, such as spina bifida. And there's even another one. I think it's anencephaly, and it's believed to be due to impaired folate metabolism, which is critical for the proper development of the neural tube in early pregnancy. So everything is interconnected, and that's the scary part, because this could lead to birth defects if not tended to. Now, we could talk on and on about the mutations here, and specifically about the homocysteine levels, because that's another thing to touch on. But how do MTFHR mutations interact with other genetic factors or health conditions, like high rates of ADHD and autism in the last 2 decades, and an ever increasing worrying about the effects of man-altered food? What role does MTFHR have in this?
So when you take to synthesize dopamine, let's start there. We have to take tyrosine and we have to use the methyl part of the methylated folic acid. So that's important. So you have to remember that folic acid is like the UPS truck, the FedEx guy, whoever you want to say, and they're the ones that deliver what we need all the time. So when we don't have enough delivery guys, it doesn't matter how much you're prepared. If you don't get your packages, it doesn't work. So we have to take that methylated group and we've got to use that with tyrosine to make dopamine. We have to use that methylated group with tryptophan to make serotonin. We have to use that group for wound repair. So especially with dopamine and tryptophan, we're finding that if you don't have enough serotonin, we don't have enough dopamine, the answer when you come to me, and there's lots of times is I'll give you an ADD medication, we'll just say it's fine, we don't need it. But we haven't looked at that underlying issue of why aren't we making this? And so what you find is that depressive people have a double chance of having, it's twice as high to have the amount of MTHFR variants inside of people that are depressed versus those who aren't. And then our answer was, well, let's just give you another pill instead of trying to look at the causation. The thing I've found with people is they want to feel good about what they eat. They want to feel good about where their medications come from. They want to feel good about how they're treating it anymore. They don't want just the problem to go away, because now they know if I take this, it goes away, but what happens in 10 years? So anybody who's dealing with those things, don't come off of your medications. But if you start adding methylated folic acid, you see there's a study that was done for the company Deplin, and you saw a decrease in depressive symptoms by almost 30% by just changing the type of folic acid you have. And this is for me, it's a huge thing, because as we alter our food more and more, we're coming up surprised that we have problems with our health. And we're like, well, great, well, let's just alter it again. We'll fix it for everybody. And we're not looking at the patient asking, what can I do to help you?
And when you talk about genetic testing and counseling, it's so important, because I mean, when I was pregnant, I discovered this MTFHR mutation by Dr. Fader. But when you look at homocysteine levels, the MTHFR mutations can lead to elevated levels of homocysteine, which is an amino acid in the blood. And when folate levels are insufficient, very bad things happen. So high homocysteine levels have been linked to various pregnancy complications, including neural tube defects and preeclampsia. So it's extremely important to check this out. Now, of course, for women with a family history of pregnancy complications or known MTHFR mutations, I always say genetic counseling is going to provide very valuable insight and guidance on managing risks during pregnancy, which is, at the end of the day, if you can manage those risks, you potentially save your life and the baby's, and that's extremely important. Now, let's move on, because we have about 2 minutes left.
Yeah, can we just talk 2 seconds? Because we actually had the same problem with our infertility, and that's where I got into this too. Was we actually went through IVF with our second child twice, and when we went in, there was a specialist in California by the name of Dr. Beers, and this was long enough ago that it was kind of a newer thing. And we went in there and we found out that my wife had probably somewhere in the range of 30 miscarriages, but they were always early on, and that
Wow.
she was throwing clots every time that she had a miscarriage. And so he said, it's your folic acid. And so early on, we had this and we had no clue. And then we started looking at familial history with birth controls and with miscarriages, with pregnancy. And we started seeing this correlation of a higher rate in her family to having clots. So you have all these women who have this risk factor that's underlying and they want to get pregnant. But then when they get pregnant, it increases the chance of having clotting disorders. And they're like, well, it's only 10%. I'm like, only 10%? That's like 1 out of 10 women could throw a clot that weren't. That's not an only in my world.
Right.
So we started digging into it. We struggled with infertility for 6-7 years. We started treating her with folic acid and then treating her with some baby aspirin because of the clotting disorders. And boom, now we have too many kids and we should have stopped. But you know, you look at it and it's such a simple thing. Instead, we spent thousands and thousands of dollars on IVF and nobody took the $200 test to say, is this a problem? Until we had a specialist that we had to spend a ton in California from Utah to see. So I'm with you. Go get tested. If you have a problem, go find out the problem before they just start throwing stuff at you.
Boom. You just saved a whole bunch of people a whole lot of money. Exactly. Just all you have to do is test. Now, we have like about a minute and a half left, and I want to kind of talk about where things are at. So when you talk about the research, right? Like, what's the current state of research on MTHFR mutations? I mean, it's expanded our understanding on their impact on health, and key variants like we talked about, the C677T and the A1298C have been extensively studied for their roles in various conditions, including cardiovascular disease and pregnancy complications and certain cancers. I know for a fact research is moving towards personalized medicine, acknowledging, to your point, that the impact of MTHFR mutations can vary greatly among individuals. And this includes truly understanding how these mutations interact with other genetic factors, like you so eloquently taught us today, and life choices. So studies are really exploring what I found when I was researching this: novel therapeutic strategies, including targeted nutritional interventions, like you mentioned, the folate supplementation, and medications to manage conditions associated with MTFHR. But how should healthcare providers feel approach treatment and management for patients with these mutations? Because this is very complicated if you're not understanding the root causation.
Right. Well, the nice thing about everything that is complicated is as many studies they're done, and then there's a lot of conflicting studies. For example, nobody will let us test on the pregnant babies to see whether or not they're going to die or not. For some reason, people don't like it when we test on them. I don't know. They're picky that way, I guess, right? So all the studies we look are kind of older studies saying, well, it's only folic acid. That's what the studies say. My answer to all of that is that the number, you can look at plasma levels of the methyl tetrahydrofolate, and you'll see them increase substantially when you use a supplement that gives you methyl tetrahydrofolate. And so knowing that it will go up and that can be metabolized by our body, and that is a natural thing, in a lot of cases, the first thing I would tell people is it's the first supplement I would try. If you think 30% of the people could use it, the worst case is your body knows completely how to get rid of it, and you're having any of those symptoms just by getting one good supplement, which is inexpensive. Like I said, find something that's made in the United States or inside the European Union, someplace where you trust where it's made from. And like the Mary Ruth brand, try that. And my assumption is that people who need it will find that they feel better by 10-15%. And it's the cheapest, easiest way to do it. And it doesn't make it nearly as complicated. Then when you feel better, go out there, dig into it, and really get your teeth into it.
I've just been inspired because here, just before, we talked about, some of my symptoms where I'm having these these like night sweats, and I wake up sweating, and I'm by no means premenopausal, and then waking up with high blood pressure. I haven't been taking folic acid like since I my pregnancy since 2017. So maybe I need to go look at this, and because I know I have the mutation and I know my levels were managed and fine during pregnancy, but I think I got too comfortable. And now with all of this talk, I'm feeling like that might be a root cause of some of the current issues I'm having. So thank you for this.
Yeah, I just really like the idea of giving people something that worst case scenario, you just urinate it out. So there's not a lot of risk to it. And I'm not going to say that it'll solve your problems, but I like things where people have a way to grab onto their health, try it themselves, figure something out, and they feel control. They feel like they have something, that they have hope. And this gives it to them with little to, well, no risk really,
Right.
as long as you're taking the methylated folic acid. I love taking methylate folate because it just makes this easy test. Just try it for 2 weeks, see what happens, and then you're out what you paid for it, which is $20 or so. So there's not much things you can fix in your life to give you a little control that's less than $20.
That's some great advice. We are out of time. Thank you so much, Phil. You're amazing.
Well, thank you very much. You make it so easy. Everybody doesn't know how easy it is. You make it so easy, Zen. Thank you.
I do my best. I do my best. Guys, a common misconception is that having an MTHFR mutation guarantees the development of serious health conditions. In reality, the risk is influenced by a combination of genetic, environmental, and lifestyle factors. Not all MTHFR mutations have clinical significance. Misinterpreting test results can lead to unnecessary anxiety and inappropriate treatments. Assuming that all individuals with MTHFR mutations require the same treatment approach is misleading. Personalized assessment is key in managing these mutations effectively. That was America's Favorite Pharmacist, brought to you by Mary Ruth's Organics. That was our newest and weekly contributor, pharmaceutical expert, Phil Cowley, goes by the handle Phil's My Pharmacist. Do check him out on the gram, and definitely get some vitamins and supplements directly from MaryRuthOrganics.com. You can check them out on the gram at Mary Ruth Organics. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Mary Ruth's Organics. Not all supplements are alike. Mary Ruth's believes that making the best supplements means creating products that are only made out of the highest quality ingredients. They are non-GMO, plant-based, vegan, and they taste great. Mary Ruth's Organics assist in maintaining your health and aid your body on your way to wellness. For more information, go to MaryRuthOrganics.com and use the promo code PHIL20MRO for 30% discount off your first order. That's MaryRuthOrganics.com.
Well, that's a wrap, my dear friends. We are at the end of our date. Remember to join me right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, every Saturday night from 9 to 10 p.m. Or you could head to 710WOR.iHeart.com/A Moment of Zen. Also remember that we're live on Traverse TV Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern, on YouTube at 2 p.m. Eastern on Sundays. And of course, all episodes of A Moment of Zen are available on Kathy Ireland's Your Home TV streaming platform. You could head directly to our channel at mox.yourhometv.com. Thank you for listening to A Moment of Zen. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host. Thanks again to all of our sponsors that continue to make this show possible. And remember, happiness is the only thing that multiplies when you share it. A big shout out to our newest sponsor, Phil Cowley, in America's Favorite Pharmacist segment. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll see you next week.